I saw a couple of plays this weekend, and I hate the fan thing. It's the umpires. It's the officiating. You talk to any of these athletes, and they'll tell you that there were so many small little things during the course of a game that led to a loss. You can't blame me on the officiating. But if you just as much as blink or make eye contact with Patrick Mahomes, they're throwing a flag, and you're going to get a roughing call. And I did a little deep dive on the Chiefs and the penalties. Is the zebra basically the Chiefs' alternate uniform, right? That's kind of the question here. And let's take a look at it, because you look at the regular season versus the playoffs for the officiating and the Chiefs, and it kind of makes you scratch your head. Because the Chiefs are going for the first three-peat in NFL history, and they have played 11 playoff games since 2021. 11 playoff games since 2021. In those 11 games, how many times have the Chiefs had more penalties than their opponents? Zero, right? It's never happened. The Chiefs have had more penalties than their opponents? Never, right? In those 11 games, how many times have the Chiefs' opponents had more penalties than the Chiefs? 10.
Every time.
10 games in which the opponents had more penalties. No games in which the Chiefs had more penalties. Now, that is a extremely high clip that you say, well, how does it look in the regular season? Well, you had the 11 postseason games since 2021. In the regular season, you've had the Chiefs playing 68 regular season games since 2021. And from that standpoint, 27 games, the Chiefs had less penalty yardage at 39.7%. 38 games, the Chiefs had more penalty yardage, 55.9%. So a little more even. So you compare that to the playoffs, 90.9% of the time, the Chiefs had less penalty yardage against them. And only once have they had more in the entirety of that when it comes to penalty yardage, right? So it's very skewed. I mean, 10 games, the Chiefs had fewer penalties 90.9% of the times. The Chiefs have also gone 10-1 in those 11 games and have won 2 Super Bowls along the way. So that is pretty scary. In those 11 games, the Chiefs have been called for a grand total of 36 penalties. Their opponents have been called for 66. That's 30 more penalties and almost 225 more penalty yards than their opponents. So I'm not saying the NFL is necessarily, oh, hey, we want the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift and all this stuff, and you want a dynasty, and Mahomes is the face of the league right now. But I think if you are someone that wants to build this narrative, it's so skewed towards the Chiefs getting the benefit of the doubt. I mean, you saw the roughing. I mean, you saw the 2 roughing calls that were against Patrick Mahomes. Even the broadcasters were upset about it.
I mean, to be honest, Doug, I really don't like to go into conspiracy when it comes to football, because I like football because it's a tangible sport. You can just kind of see it and visualize it, winners, losers. But, man, it's ridiculous. That Texans game, I mean, if you let the refs into a game against the Chiefs, they are going to make you pay. I watched that one play where Foley Fatukasi, shout out to Foley with the Texans, former teammate of mine, and his teammate, they collided into each other on Patrick Mahomes. They didn't even touch him. They smacked each other, and the flag was put. I think those stripes are just too lenient when it comes to the Chiefs. It's almost too loose. And honestly, Doug, you brought up Taylor Swift and the problem circumstance. If you look at the money the NFL made with the acquisition of Taylor Swift to the Chiefs kingdom, I could probably put some sort of, mysterious theory out there as what these NFL refs are trying to do or what the NFL is trying to do. I won't go that far. But the discrepancy, it's alarming, and it's starting to become ridiculous. It's kind of killing the fun of watching them play games because, late game situation, that ref shield is always going to be there for the Chiefs' back pocket. So I just think it's becoming ridiculous. I hate it. And I love Patrick Mahomes, don't get it twisted, but the refs, their involvement in these games, it's becoming, it's something that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. It's the whole thing that the Kansas City Chiefs have agreed to a 4-year, $200 million extension with the refs, right? And it feels that way. And like I said, I'm with you too. I'm the last blame the refs guy. I really am the last blame the refs guy. But just keep it going with this. Just in this stretch, during this run, The Chiefs had 3 total defensive pass interference or defensive holding called on the Chiefs. Just 3 against the Chiefs. 11 total defensive pass interference or defensive holding calls against their opponents. They've had 1 roughing the passer called against the Chiefs in this stretch. 7 called against them. 1 unnecessary roughness called on the Chiefs. 4 on their opponents. 0 unsportsmanlike penalties called on the Chiefs. 1 unsportsmanlike penalty called on the other team. And you look at the EPA, expected points added, it's at 18.84. 18.84 expected points added with the penalties. Well, check it out. 8 of the 11 games that the Chiefs have played in this stretch have been by 1 score or less. So whether you like it or not, sure, there's some legitimate penalties in here. There's no doubt about that, but they have benefited from that in a major way. And look, there's other ways you can explain this. Well, it's a small sample size of games. Sure, they played more playoff games than any other team, so maybe they handle the pressure more. They don't have as many nerves. They're well coached, right? I mean, you have Andy Reid and a great coaching staff, but yeah, look, I'm just saying, compared to the other great teams in the NFL, it does, at least perception-wise, sometimes perception is what matters, and perception-wise, it does feel like the Chiefs have the benefit of the doubt. But